Now starting another original tale from Korafika Tales, an exclusive work from our publishing house, narrated by Joanne. Enjoy the story. He sees her crossing the street, pregnant, alone. 6 months ago, he left her without a word. Now she's carrying a child, maybe his, and a power he never saw coming. She built an empire while he forgot her name. Now she holds the key to his destruction, and the only question left is, will she use it? Or will the man who walked away finally face what he ran from? This is the story of the king who abandoned his queen, and the reckoning that followed. The city exhaled smoke and neon. Seoul at midnight was alive with whispers, deals made in shadow, debts paid in silence. John Minho owned it all. Every corner, every breath, every fear. He didn't need to raise his voice. His name did that for him. At 31, he was the youngest Don to ever control the Southern Underground. Cold, calculated, untouchable. The kind of man who made decisions without hesitation and left no room for regret. Tonight, he rode through the streets on his black Ducati, the engine purring like a threat. Behind him, arms wrapped around his waist, was Yuna, 25, beautiful, ambitious, his fiancée, the woman who understood power and never asked questions. She leaned into his back, her breath warm against his leather jacket. "Faster," she whispered, laughing. He didn't smile. He never did, but he gave her what she wanted. The bike roared forward, slicing through the rain-slicked streets like a blade. Streetlights blurred into gold. The world shrank to speed and silence. And then, brake lights. He stopped. Not because of traffic, not because of danger, but because of her. She stood at the crosswalk, shoulders hunched against the rain, one hand pressed to her rounded belly. Her dark skin glowed under the street lamp. Her hair was shorter now, pulled back in a simple bun. She wore a long coat, elegant but simple. Nothing flashy, nothing that screamed wealth. But Minho knew. He knew the way she stood. The curve of her neck, the way she tucked her chin when she was tired. Seo Hana, his ex-wife. The woman he had left 6 months ago without explanation, without goodbye, without mercy. And now she was pregnant. Yuna shifted behind him. "Minho, what's wrong?" He didn't answer. His hands tightened on the handlebars, knuckles white. His pulse, usually steady as stone, hammered against his ribs. Hana didn't look up. She crossed the street slowly, carefully, one hand on her belly, the other clutching a sleek black briefcase. A briefcase. Not a purse, not a grocery bag. A briefcase. Something shifted in Minho's chest. Something he had buried deep. Something he thought he had killed. "Minho." Yuna's voice again, sharper now. "Who is that?" He forced himself to breathe. No one. But his eyes followed Hana until she disappeared into the crowd. And in that moment, a single question tore through him like a bullet. Is that child mine? 2 hours later, John Penthouse. The apartment was all glass and steel. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city like a throne room. Minho stood at the edge, scotch in hand, staring at the lights below. Yuna was in the bedroom, talking on the phone, her voice muffled. She didn't ask again about the woman on the street. She knew better. But Minho couldn't stop seeing her. Hana, pregnant, alone. He had left her for a reason, a necessary reason, a survival reason. 6 months ago, his enemies had gotten too close, too hungry. They had whispered her name in back rooms, placed bets on how long it would take to break him through her. So he made a choice. He walked away. No explanation. No warning. Just gone. It was the only way to keep her safe, to keep her invisible, to keep her alive. He told himself it was mercy. But now, staring at the rain sliding down the glass, he wondered if it had been cowardice. His phone buzzed. A message from his second-in-command, Kang Jisoo. "Boss, we have a problem." Minho's jaw tightened. What now? Another message appeared. "The Kim syndicate is making moves. And they're being backed by someone new, someone with serious money and serious connections. A pause. Then, her name is Seo Hana. Minho's blood turned to ice. He stared at the message, reading it again and again. Seo Hana. His Hana. The woman he had abandoned to protect. The woman who was now pregnant. The woman who was now funding his enemies. He didn't move, didn't breathe. And then slowly, he smiled. Not out of joy, out of recognition. She hadn't just survived, she had become dangerous. And now the only question was, did she know the truth? Or was she coming for revenge? Either way, Minho realized one thing with brutal clarity. The war had already begun. Minho didn't sleep that night. He sat in his study, the city lights bleeding through the windows, and pulled up every piece of information he could find on Seo Hana. What he found shattered everything he thought he knew. 6 months ago, she had been a quiet, brilliant architect, talented but invisible. She worked for a mid-tier firm, designed buildings that would never carry her name, and went home to an empty apartment. Now she owned the firm, and 3 others. Her name appeared on corporate boards, international real estate deals, high-end development contracts across Seoul, Tokyo, and Los Angeles. Seo Hana wasn't just successful. She was a force, and she had done it all in 6 months. Minho leaned back, fingers steepled, mind racing. How? How had she gone from invisible to untouchable in half a year? And why was she funding the Kim syndicate? The very people who wanted him dead. His phone rang. Jisoo's name flashed on the screen. "Talk," Minho said. "I did some digging." Jisoo's voice was tense. Hana didn't just get rich. She got connected. She's working with foreign investors. Clean money. Legitimate power. And she's been quietly buying up properties in our territory. Minho's jaw clenched. She's building a fortress. Exactly. And the Kims? They're just the front. She's the one pulling strings. Silence. Then Minho spoke, his voice low and deadly. "Find out if the child is mine." Jisoo hesitated. "Boss, find out." The line went dead. Minho stood, walked to the window, and stared at the city below. Somewhere out there, Hana was awake too. Planning, building, waiting. And he realized, with a strange mixture of pride and fear, that she had become exactly what he had always known she could be, dangerous. The next morning, Hana's office. The building was new. All glass and light, perched on the edge of the financial district like a declaration. Hana sat behind her desk, her belly round and undeniable now, her hands resting on a stack of contracts. She looked tired, but not weak. Never weak. Her assistant, Minji, entered with coffee. "Ma'am, the Kim meeting is in an hour. Cancel it." Minji blinked. "But, cancel it." Hana's voice was soft but final. "We're done with them." Minji nodded and left. Hana leaned back, one hand on her belly, and closed her eyes. She had seen him last night. Minho, on his bike, with that woman wrapped around him like a trophy. For a moment she had frozen. Her heart had stopped, her breath had caught. And then she had kept walking. Because she had learned something in the 6 months since he left. Power wasn't about holding on. It was about letting go. She had let go of him. Of the love. Of the hope. And in return, she had found herself. Now she was pregnant, alone, and more powerful than she had ever imagined. The child kicked. Hana smiled, just a little. "I know," she whispered. "I know." She didn't know if Minho was the father, and honestly, she didn't care anymore. Because whether the child was his or not, one thing was certain. She would raise this baby in a world where no man could ever walk away again. That night, the confrontation. Minho found her at a charity gala. Of course she was there. The powerful always gathered in the same rooms, smiling for cameras, making deals over champagne. Orchestrated emotional momentum and tension escalation for confrontation scene. Continuando o capítulo 2. Preciso manter o ritmo emocional, a tensão crescente e preparar o confronto entre Minho e Hannah. Aproximadamente 8. 0 caracteres no total para o capítulo. She wore a midnight blue gown, elegant and understated, her belly visible but not hidden. Her hair was swept up. Her skin glowed under the chandeliers. She looked like royalty. Minho watched from across the room, his hands in his pockets, his expression unreadable. Yuna was at his side, laughing with investors, playing her part perfectly. But he wasn't listening to her. He was watching Hannah. And then, as if she felt his gaze, she turned. Their eyes met. Time stopped. The room fell away. And in that moment, Minho saw it all. The hurt, the strength, the fury, the grace. She didn't look away, didn't flinch. She simply raised her glass just slightly in a silent toast, and then she turned her back on him. It was the most devastating thing she had ever done. Minho moved without thinking. He crossed the room in long strides, ignoring Yuna's startled call, ignoring the eyes that followed him. He reached Hannah just as she was stepping onto the balcony. Hannah. She stopped. Didn't turn. Just stood there, framed by the city lights, her shoulders tight. Go away, Minho. Her voice was calm, almost kind. It gutted him. We need to talk. No. She turned now, and her eyes were cold. We don't. The child is mine. Silence. Minho stared at her, his jaw tight, his fists clenched. I have a right to know. You gave up your rights 6 months ago. Her voice didn't rise, didn't break. When you walked away without a word, when you chose silence over honesty, when you decided I wasn't worth an explanation. I had reasons. I'm sure you did. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. And I'm sure they made sense to you. But I don't care anymore, Minho. I stopped caring the day I realized you weren't coming back. He took a step closer. Hannah, don't. She held up a hand. Don't pretend this is about me. Or the baby. This is about control. You can't stand that I moved on. That I built something without you. That I don't need you anymore. You're funding my enemies. I'm funding my future. She met his gaze, unflinching. And if that happens to conflict with your empire, that's not my problem. Minho felt something crack inside him. Something he had kept locked down for 6 months. I left to protect you. Hannah laughed. It was soft, bitter, beautiful. You left because you were afraid. Afraid they'd use me against you. Afraid I'd make you weak. She stepped closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. But you were already weak, Minho. Because you loved me. And that terrified you more than any bullet ever could. He couldn't speak, couldn't move. She reached up, just for a moment, and touched his cheek. Her hand was warm, gentle. Goodbye, Minho. And then she was gone. Back into the lights. Back into the crowd. Back into the life she had built without him. Minho stood alone on the balcony, the city roaring below, and realized with brutal clarity he had lost her. Not to another man, not to time, but to himself. And now, the only question was, could he ever win her back? Or was it already too late? 3 days passed. Minho didn't sleep, didn't eat, didn't think about anything except her words. You were already weak, Minho, because you loved me. He sat in his office, staring at surveillance footage of Hannah's building, watching her come and go, watching her live a life that didn't include him. She was thriving, and it destroyed him. Jisoo entered without knocking. Boss, we have confirmation. Minho's head snapped up. What? Jisoo placed a folder on the desk. The medical records you asked for, discreetly obtained. Minho stared at the folder. His hands didn't move. The child, Jisoo said quietly, is yours. Time stopped. Minho opened the folder slowly, saw the dates, the DNA markers, the undeniable proof. He was going to be a father, and Hana had never told him. Rage flooded his veins, hot, blinding. She lied to me. No. Jisu's voice was careful. She just didn't tell you. There's a difference. Minho slammed the folder shut. Get me everything. Her schedule, her security, her weaknesses, everything. Jisu hesitated. Boss, what are you planning? Minho stood, his eyes dark and dangerous. I'm taking back what's mine. That night, Hana's apartment. Hana stood in her nursery, folding tiny clothes, humming softly. The room was painted pale yellow. Simple, warm, safe. She had built this space with her own hands. No designer, no help, just her. Because this child would know one thing above all else. They were wanted, loved, protected. Her phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. We need to talk. Tonight. Alone. M. Hana stared at the message, her jaw tight. She should ignore it, should block him, should move on. But something in her chest twisted. She typed back. No. His response was immediate. I know about the baby. I know it's mine. Hana's breath caught. How? How did he know? Her hands shook as she typed. Stay away from us. His reply made her blood run cold. I'm already here. She spun around. And there he was. Standing in her doorway, tall and dark and impossible. His eyes fixed on her like she was the only thing in the world that mattered. How did you get in? Her voice was steady, but her heart was racing. I own this building. Of course he did. Hana crossed her arms over her belly, protective. Get out. No. He stepped inside, closing the door behind him. Not until we talk. There's nothing to say. I'm the father. His voice was low, raw. You can't just keep that from me. I can do whatever I want. She met his gaze, unflinching. You walked away. You don't get to walk back in just because it's convenient. It's my child. It's our child.
You have 2 options. Keep watching short clips. Unlock the full story now. 14 full episodes. New content every week. Listen anytime, anywhere, no interruptions. Exclusive members-only area. Choose the story theme once a week. Scan the QR code now. Access is closing.
It's our child. And you forfeited your rights when you left. Minho's jaw clenched. I left to protect you. You left because you were a coward. The words hit him like a slap. Silence filled the room. And then quietly, Minho spoke. You're right. Hana blinked. What? You're right. He took a step closer, his eyes never leaving hers. I was afraid of losing you, afraid of what loving you would cost me. So I walked away. I convinced myself it was noble, that I was saving you. But the truth is, I was saving myself. Hana's throat tightened. And I'm sorry. His voice cracked. I'm so sorry, Hana, for leaving, for lying, for making you believe you weren't enough. Because you were. You always were. Tears burned behind her eyes, but she didn't let them fall. It's too late, Minho. It's not. He reached for her hand, and this time, she didn't pull away. I know I don't deserve you. I know I don't deserve this child. But I'm asking. No, I'm begging. For a chance to make this right. Hana looked down at their joined hands. His fingers were rough, scarred, strong. Hers were soft, steady, sure. What are you asking for? Let me be a father. His voice was raw, desperate. Let me protect you both. Let me prove that I can be the man you needed me to be 6 months ago. Hana pulled her hand away. I don't need you to protect me, Minho. I don't need you to save me. I built this life without you. I became powerful without you. And I will raise this child without you. I know. He swallowed hard. But maybe this child deserves to know their father, even if you never forgive me. Hana stared at him, her heart breaking and healing all at once. She wanted to say no, wanted to send him away, wanted to protect herself from the man who had already broken her once. But when she looked into his eyes, she saw something she had never seen before. Genuine fear. Not of enemies, not of death, but of losing her. Again. And despite everything, a small, fragile part of her softened. "One chance," she whispered. "You get one chance, Minho. And if you walk away again, I won't." He stepped closer, his voice fierce. "I swear to you, Hana, I won't." She didn't smile, didn't cry, she just nodded. And in that moment, the forbidden line between them blurred, not erased, but softened, just enough to let hope slip through. Minho kept his promise. For 3 weeks he showed up, not as the Don, not as the king of the underground, just as a man trying to earn back what he had lost. He came to Hana's apartment every evening at 7, brought groceries, cooked dinners she barely touched, sat in silence while she worked on her laptop, answering emails, closing deals, building her empire. He didn't push, didn't demand. He just existed in her space, quiet and constant, like a shadow learning how to become real again. Hana watched him from the corner of her eye, her heart conflicted. Part of her wanted to trust him. Part of her knew better. "Why are you really here?" she asked one night, her voice cutting through the silence. Minho looked up from the dish he was washing. His sleeves were rolled up, his hands soapy, his expression unguarded. "Because I want to be." That's not an answer. He dried his hands slowly, then turned to face her. "I'm here because I made the worst mistake of my life, and I'm trying to fix it. You can't fix the past, Minho." "I know." He stepped closer, his voice low. "But maybe I can build a different future. For you. For our child. For us." "There is no us. Not yet." He held her gaze. "But there could be." Hana looked away, one hand on her belly. The baby kicked, as if in response. She wanted to believe him. God, she wanted to. But trust wasn't something you rebuilt overnight. It was earned. One quiet evening at a time. 2 days later, the threat. The first warning came in the form of a fire. Not at Hana's building, but at one of her development sites. A luxury high-rise project in Gangnam. Millions of dollars in damage. No casualties, but the message was clear. Someone wanted to hurt her. Minho got the call at midnight. Jisoo's voice was grim. "Boss, it's the Kims. They're retaliating." "For what?" "Hana cut ties with them 3 weeks ago. They're not happy." Minho's blood ran cold. "Where is she?" "At her apartment. We have eyes on her. She's safe." "Double the security. Now." He hung up and dressed quickly. Yuna stirred in bed behind him. "Where are you going?" "Out." "Minho." "Not now." His voice was ice. He left without another word. Hana's apartment, 1 a.m. Hana opened the door to find Minho standing there, his jaw tight, his eyes dark. "What happened?" "Your site in Gangnam was torched." Her breath caught. "What?" "The Kims. They're coming for you." Hana stepped back, her mind racing. "I ended our partnership. They knew it was coming." "They don't care." Minho entered, closing the door behind him. "You embarrassed them, made them look weak. Now they want blood. This isn't your problem." "Yes, it is." He stepped closer, his voice fierce. "You're carrying my child. That makes it my problem. That makes you my responsibility. I don't need you to—" "I know you don't need me." His voice softened. "But I'm here anyway. Because whether you forgive me or not, whether we ever get back together or not, I will not let anyone hurt you. Or our baby." Hana stared at him, her heart pounding, and for the first time in 6 months, she saw him clearly, not as the man who left, but as the man who came back. "What do we do?" she whispered. "We end this." Minho pulled out his phone. "I'm calling in every favor I have. The Kims want a war. I'll give them one." "No." Hana grabbed his wrist. "No more violence. No more blood. That's not who I am anymore." "Then what do you suggest?" She thought for a moment, her mind sharp and calculating. "We buy them out." Minho blinked. "What?" The Kims are powerful, but they're greedy. Everything has a price. We find theirs. A slow smile spread across Minho's face. You really have changed. I had to. She met his gaze. I had to become someone who could survive without you. The words stung, but Minho nodded. Then let's do it your way. 1 week later, the negotiation. The meeting took place in a private room at the Shilla Hotel. Neutral ground, high security, no weapons allowed. Hana sat at the head of the table, her belly round and visible, her expression calm. Minho stood behind her, silent and lethal, his presence a warning. Across from them sat Kim Tae-jun, the head of the Kim syndicate. Mid-50s, cold eyes, ruthless smile. Ms. Seo. He leaned back, fingers steepled. I'm surprised you came. I don't run from problems, Mr. Kim. I solve them. And how do you plan to solve this? Hana slid a folder across the table. I'm offering to buy out your stake in the Gangnam project, triple the original investment, plus a 10% share in my next 3 developments. Taejun didn't even look at the folder. You think you can buy your way out of this? I think you're a businessman, not a fool. Her voice was steady. You burned my site to send a message. I received it. Now let's move forward like adults. You disrespected me. I ended a partnership that was no longer beneficial. That's not disrespect. That's strategy. Taejun's jaw tightened. You think you're untouchable because you have John Minho standing behind you? No. Hana leaned forward, her eyes hard. I think I'm untouchable because I'm smarter than you, richer than you, and more connected than you. Minho is here because he wants to be, not because I need him. Silence. Taejun stared at her, reassessing. And then slowly, he smiled. You've got spine, Miss Seo. I'll give you that. Do we have a deal? He opened the folder, read the terms. His eyes flickered. Double the share in your next developments. Done. Taejun extended his hand. Hana shook it. And just like that, the war ended. Not with blood, but with brains. Outside the hotel, Minho walked Hana to her car, his hand on her lower back, protective but not possessive. You were incredible in there. Hana smiled, just a little. I know. He laughed. Actually laughed. It was a sound she hadn't heard in months. Thank you, she said quietly. For being there. For not taking over. You didn't need me to. He opened her car door. You handled it yourself. She paused, 1 foot in the car, and looked up at him. You're different. So are you. Their eyes held, and in that moment, something shifted. Not forgiveness, not yet, but the beginning of it. Good night, Minho. Good night, Hana. She drove away, and Minho watched until her taillights disappeared. He pulled out his phone and made a call. Jisoo, I need you to do something for me. Anything, boss. Find out who ordered the hit on Hana's site, not the Kims, the real puppet master. A pause. You think someone else is behind this? I know it. Minho's voice was cold. And when you find them, let me know. Because this isn't over. Understood. The line went dead. Minho stared at the city, his jaw tight. Someone was still hunting Hana, and he wouldn't stop until he found out who. The call came at 4 a.m. Hana's phone buzzed on the nightstand, jolting her awake. She reached for it, groggy, one hand on her belly. Unknown number. She almost ignored it, but something told her to answer. Hello? Silence, then a voice, smooth, familiar, terrifying. Hello, Hana. Her blood turned to ice. Who is this? Someone who knew you before you became untouchable. Before you built your empire. Before you forgot where you came from. Recognition slammed into her like a fist. Daniel? A low chuckle. You remember. Daniel Cho, her first boss. The man who had mentored her when she was fresh out of university. The man who had taught her everything about architecture, business, and power. The man who had tried to own her. What do you want? Her voice was cold now, sharp. I want what's mine. I don't belong to you. No. But the company you stole does. Hannah sat up, her heart pounding. I didn't steal anything. I bought it. Fair and square. With whose money, Hannah? His voice turned venomous. You were broke 6 months ago. Broken. Abandoned. And suddenly you're a billionaire? Someone funded you. And I want to know who. Hannah's mind raced. He was right. 6 months ago, a mysterious investor had appeared. Offered her capital. No strings attached. No questions asked. She had taken it because she was desperate and hungry and done being small. But she had never asked where the money came from. That's none of your business. It is when you're using it to destroy my legacy. Daniel's voice hardened. I built that firm from nothing. And you took it from me. You lost it because you were corrupt. Because you cut corners. Because you put profit over people. And you put revenge over loyalty. I put survival over everything. Her voice was steel. You tried to break me, Daniel. You tried to make me dependent, controllable. And when I refused, you fired me. So don't talk to me about loyalty. Silence. Then, I gave you one chance to do this the easy way. Now we do it mine. The line went dead. Hannah stared at the phone, her hands shaking. And then she called Minho. Minho's penthouse, 4:30 a.m. He answered on the first ring. Hannah? What's wrong? I need your help. 20 minutes later, he was at her door. She told him everything. About Daniel. About the mysterious investor. About the threat. Minho listened, his expression dark, his jaw tight. Who funded you? I don't know. Hannah's voice cracked. I never asked. I needed the money. I needed to survive. Hannah? I know. She looked away, shame flooding her chest. I know it was reckless, but I was desperate, and I thought if I could just get back on my feet, I could pay them back. Walk away clean. Minho reached for her hand. We'll figure this out. What if the money was dirty? What if I built everything on blood? Then we clean it. His voice was firm. But first we find out who your investor is, and we end this. The investigation. It took Jisoo 48 hours. 48 hours of digging through offshore accounts, shell companies, encrypted transactions. And when he found the answer, he didn't want to believe it. He walked into Minho's office, his face pale. Boss, you need to see this. Minho took the file, opened it, and froze. The investor who had funded Hannah's rise wasn't a stranger. It was Yuna, his fiancée. Minho stared at the documents, his mind spinning. How long has she known about Hannah? Since the beginning. Jisoo's voice was grim. She's been tracking her for years, waiting for the right moment. Why? Revenge. Minho looked up. For what? Jisoo hesitated. Yuna's brother was killed in a deal gone wrong. 5 years ago. The man who ordered the hit? Daniel Cho. The pieces clicked into place. Yuna hadn't funded Hannah out of kindness. She had funded her as a weapon to destroy Daniel. And Hannah had been the perfect pawn. Minho stood, his fists clenched. Where is Yuna now? At the penthouse. Get Hannah. Bring her here. Now. The confrontation. When Hannah arrived, Yuna was waiting. She sat on the couch, calm and composed, a glass of wine in her hand. Hello, Hannah. She smiled. We finally meet properly. Hannah stared at her, shock and fury warring in her chest. You're the one who funded me? I gave you a gift. Yuna stood, her voice smooth. I gave you power, freedom, revenge, and you took it. You used me. We used each other. Yuna tilted her head. I needed someone to destroy Daniel Cho. You needed capital. It was mutually beneficial. You lied to me. I gave you a choice. Yuna's eyes hardened. And you made it. Don't pretend you're innocent, Hannah. You knew that money came from somewhere. You just didn't care. Hannah's throat tightened. Because Yuna was right. She had known. Deep down, she had known. And she had taken the money anyway. Minho stepped between them, his voice cold. "This ends now." Yuna laughed. "You think you can stop me? I own half of Hana's empire. If I pull my funding, she loses everything." "Then pull it." Hana's voice was steady. "I'd rather start over with nothing than keep something built on lies." Yuna's smile faltered. Minho stepped closer, his eyes dark. "You're done, Yuna. Walk away now, and I'll let you leave the city. Stay, and I'll bury you." Silence. Then Yuna set down her glass. "You were always weak, Minho. Love made you soft." "No." He met her gaze. "Love made me human. There's a difference." Yuna stared at him, something like regret flickering in her eyes. And then she turned and walked out. The door closed, and the war was over. 3 months later. Seoul in autumn was painted in gold and crimson. The trees lining the Han River shed their leaves like confessions, and the air smelled of rain and new beginnings. Hana stood in the nursery, one hand on her swollen belly, the other smoothing a soft yellow blanket over the crib rail. 8 months pregnant now. Tired in her bones, but glowing in a way that had nothing to do with skin care, and everything to do with purpose. The room was finished. Every detail chosen with care. Soft yellow walls the color of morning light. A white wooden crib with delicate carvings. Shelves lined with books she'd been collecting for months. Fairy tales in 3 languages. Illustrated stories about brave girls and gentle boys. Poetry that spoke of wonder. A rocking chair sat by the window, positioned perfectly to catch the afternoon sun. She'd spent countless evenings there already, reading aloud to the baby inside her, one hand tracing slow circles on her belly. This room was more than a nursery. It was a promise. A declaration that this child would grow up surrounded by softness and safety, that no one would ever walk away, that love would be the foundation, not an afterthought. The doorbell rang. Hana smiled. She knew who it was. Minho came every day now, not as a visitor, not as an obligation, but as something deeper, something still unnamed but undeniably real. The transformation. She opened the door to find him standing there with grocery bags in both hands, his leather jacket replaced by a simple black sweater, his expression softer than she'd ever seen it. "I brought ingredients for jjigae," he said, "the way my grandmother used to make it." Hana stepped aside to let him in. "You've mentioned your grandmother 3 times this week. She raised me." He set the bags on the kitchen counter, began unpacking vegetables with practiced ease. "Before everything else, before the empire, she taught me that the most important thing you can give someone is a warm meal and your full attention." Hana leaned against the counter, watching him work. "What happened to her?" His hands stilled. "She died when I was 16. Heart attack. After that, I had no one. So I found family in the streets. In loyalty bought with fear. In power that felt like belonging." He looked up at her. "But it was never real. Not like this." "Like what?" "Like coming home to you." The words hung in the air between them, honest and raw. Hana's throat tightened. "You don't live here, Minho." "Not yet." He returned to chopping vegetables. "But I want to. When you're ready, if you're ready. No pressure, just hope." She watched him cook. This man who had once commanded an empire with nothing but his silence, now measuring out dashita and tasting broth with a focused intensity that made her heart ache. "Tell me what you did today," she said softly. "I met with Jisoo. Signed over the last of my holdings." He stirred the pot, his movements calm. "I'm completely out now. Clean, legal, free. How does it feel?" "Terrifying," he smiled. "Liberating. Like I can finally breathe without wondering who's watching." "And Yuna?" "Gone. Left the country 2 months ago. Last I heard, she's in Singapore, starting over." He paused. "I don't hate her, you know. I understand why she did what she did. Grief makes us into people we don't recognize." Hana moved closer, placed her hand on his arm. "You're different. So are you. We had to be. She looked down at her belly. For her. Her? Hana smiled. The ultrasound confirmed it yesterday. We're having a daughter. Minho's eyes filled with tears. He set down the spoon, turned to face her fully. And for a moment, he couldn't speak. Just stared at her with an expression of such profound gratitude that it shattered something inside her. A daughter, he whispered. A daughter. He dropped to his knees, pressed his forehead against her belly, his hands gentle on either side. I promise, he said, his voice breaking. I promise I will never let you down. I will be the father she deserves, the man you both need. I promise. Hana ran her fingers through his hair, tears streaming down her own face. I believe you. And she did. The preparation. Over the next month, Minho became a fixture in her life in ways that felt both foreign and essential. He installed the car seat in her vehicle, watching 3 YouTube tutorials to make sure it was secure. He attended the prenatal classes with her, taking notes in a small leather journal, asking questions that made the instructor smile. He painted the nursery trim when Hana mentioned it needed touching up, working late into the night while she slept. But more than that, he was present. When she couldn't sleep because the baby was kicking, he'd come over at 2 a.m. with herbal tea and read to her from the stack of parenting books he'd been devouring. When her back ached, he'd massage it without being asked, his strong hands surprisingly gentle. When she cried for no reason, hormones, fear, exhaustion, he'd just hold her. I'm scared, she admitted one night, her head on his shoulder as they sat on the couch. Of what? Everything. Labor, motherhood, screwing her up, not being enough. You're going to be an incredible mother. How do you know? Because you've already spent 8 months putting her first. Because you're strong enough to ask for help. Because you chose to build something beautiful out of pain. He kissed her temple. That's not weakness, Hana. That's power. She turned to look at him. What about you? Are you scared? Terrified. He laughed softly. I spent 15 years learning how to survive in a world of violence. I don't know how to be gentle, how to be patient, how to be the kind of father a little girl needs. You're already doing it. She took his hand, placed it on her belly. Feel that? She kicks more when you're around. She knows your voice. She knows she's safe. The baby kicked against his palm, strong and insistent. Minho's eyes glistened. Hello, little one. I'm your dad. And I'm going to love you so much it scares me. The hospital. The contractions started on a Wednesday morning. Hana was in the middle of a conference call with investors when the first wave hit. She gasped, gripped the edge of her desk, and very calmly ended the meeting. Then she called Minho. He answered on the first ring. Hana? It's time. Silence, then. I'm on my way. Don't move. Don't panic. Just breathe. I'm coming. Minho. Yeah? You're the one who needs to breathe. He laughed, breathless and terrified. I'm breathing. I'm fine. Shit. Where are my keys? I'm coming. He arrived 14 minutes later, having broken every speed limit in Seoul. He found her in the living room, bag packed, breathing through another contraction with the focus of a general planning a siege. Okay. He took her bag. Okay, we've got this. We practiced. We know what to do. Another contraction. Hana gripped his hand so hard he winced. Minho. Yeah? If you pass out in the delivery room, I will never forgive you. He grinned, despite everything. Noted. Labor 12 hours. 12 hours of pain and fear, and Minho's steady voice in her ear, telling her she was strong, she was doing amazing. She was the most incredible person he'd ever known. 12 hours of him holding her hand, wiping her forehead, breathing with her through every contraction. 12 hours of him refusing to leave, even when the nurses suggested he take a break. I'm not leaving, he'd said quietly but firmly. I left once. Never again. And he didn't. When the pain became unbearable, and Hana screamed that she couldn't do this, that it was too much, that she wanted to give up. He leaned close and whispered, "You're the woman who built an empire in 6 months. You're the woman who stared down the Kim syndicate without flinching. You're the woman who taught me what strength really means. You can do this. I know you can." And she believed him. The birth at 6:47 a.m., as the sun broke over Seoul in shades of pink and gold, their daughter was born. The doctor placed her on Hannah's chest, tiny and red-faced and screaming with indignation at the cold, bright world. Hannah sobbed, great, heaving sobs of relief and joy and overwhelming love. Minho stood beside her, one hand on Hannah's shoulder, the other gently touching the baby's tiny, perfect head. Tears streamed down his face unchecked. "She's here," Hannah whispered. "She's really here. She's perfect." Minho's voice broke. "You're perfect. You're both perfect." The baby quieted, her tiny eyes blinking open, dark and unfocused but searching. Hannah looked down at her daughter, this tiny miracle, this perfect combination of everything she'd survived and everything she'd hoped for. "Hi, baby," she whispered. "I'm your mom, and this is your dad, and we love you. We love you so much." Minho bent down, pressed a kiss to Hannah's forehead, then to the baby's. "Welcome to the world, little one. We've been waiting for you." The name. Later, when the baby was cleaned and swaddled and sleeping peacefully in Hannah's arms, Minho sat beside the bed, his eyes never leaving his daughter's face. "What should we name her?" Hannah asked softly. Minho was quiet for a long moment. Then, "Hope." Hannah looked at him, surprised. "Hope?" "Because that's what she is." He reached out, let the baby's tiny fingers wrap around his thumb. "Hope that the past doesn't define us. Hope that people can change. Hope that love can heal the deepest wounds. Hope for a better future than the one we came from." Hannah's eyes filled with tears again. "Hope Jeon. Hope Seo Jeon," Minho corrected gently. "Both of us. Both families. A new legacy." Hannah nodded, unable to speak. She looked down at her daughter, Hope, and felt something shift in her chest. Something that had been tight and guarded for so long finally loosened. Forgiveness. Not because Minho had earned it through grand gestures or perfect behavior, but because she was ready to let go of the weight she'd been carrying. "I forgive you," she whispered. Minho looked up, his eyes wide. "Hannah, I forgive you for leaving, for not trusting me enough to include me in your fears, for choosing silence over honesty." She met his gaze. "I forgive you because I understand now that you were broken too, that you did the best you could with what you knew, and because I see who you've become, who you're still becoming. I don't deserve, maybe not." She smiled through her tears. "But love isn't about deserving. It's about choosing, and I choose you. Every day, every moment, every breath." Minho closed his eyes, his shoulders shaking. When he opened them again, he said the words he'd been holding back for months. "I love you. I love you more than power, more than safety, more than my own life. You and Hope are my empire now, my kingdom, my everything. I love you too." Hannah reached for his hand. "Come here." He climbed onto the hospital bed beside her, careful not to jostle the baby, and wrapped his arms around both of them. His family, his redemption, his home. The first month was chaos. Beautiful, exhausting, terrifying chaos. Hope cried at all hours. Hannah struggled with nursing. Minho Googled everything from, "Is baby poop supposed to be this color?" to, "How to burp a newborn without breaking her." But they figured it out. Together. Minho moved in officially 2 weeks after Hope was born. Not because Hannah asked, but because one night, at 3 a.m., as they were both zombie walking through another diaper change, she looked at him and said, "This is insane." "What is?" "You going back and forth every day, living out of a bag, pretending you don't belong here." He paused mid-diaper wipe. "Are you saying, move in, officially, completely? Bring your things, take the closet space." Be here. With us. He didn't even hesitate. Okay. Just like that? Hana. He looked at her, his eyes soft. I've been ready since the day I saw you crossing that street. I was just waiting for you to be ready too. So he moved in. And the apartment that had been Hana's sanctuary became theirs, their home. The routine. They developed a rhythm. Minho woke up with hope for the 2 a.m. feeding, changing her with practiced ease now, walking her around the apartment while Hana slept. He'd sing to her in Korean, old songs his grandmother had taught him, his voice low and surprisingly sweet. Hana would take the morning shift, nursing Hope while watching the sun rise over the city, marveling at the tiny perfect creature in her arms. During the day, Minho would work from home, legitimate consulting work now, helping businesses restructure, using his strategic mind for legal enterprises, while Hana managed her company remotely. They'd trade off baby duty like a well-oiled machine. And in the evenings, they'd sit together on the couch, Hope between them, and just exist in the quiet miracle of their new life. I never thought I'd have this, Minho said one night, his voice soft. What? Peace. Belonging. A reason to come home that isn't fear or obligation. He looked at Hope, who was sleeping peacefully on his chest. I thought power was the only thing that mattered. That being feared was the same as being respected. But this, he gestured to their small family, this is the only power that matters. The power to protect, to nurture, to love without conditions. Hana rested her head on his shoulder. You're a good father. I'm learning. We both are. The proposal. It happened on a Tuesday afternoon. Nothing special about the day. Just a normal, beautiful, ordinary Tuesday. They were in the park near their apartment, pushing Hope in her stroller, watching the cherry blossoms fall like snow. Hope was 3 months old now, awake and alert, her dark eyes tracking the petals with wonder. Minho stopped walking, turned to Hana, and dropped to one knee. Minho, what are you? I know we're still figuring things out, he said, his voice steady despite the tremor in his hands. I know I'm still proving myself every day. I know that marriage is just a piece of paper, and what we have is already real. But, he pulled out a small velvet box. But I want the world to know. I want Hope to grow up knowing that her parents chose each other, fully, legally, forever. He opened the box, revealing a simple platinum band with a single diamond, elegant and understated. Marry me, Hana. Not because we have a child, not because it's expected, but because I want to spend every single day of the rest of my life loving you, choosing you, building this beautiful, messy, perfect life with you. Hana stared at him, tears streaming down her face. Hope made a happy gurgling sound from her stroller, as if giving her approval. You're absolutely ridiculous, Hana said, laughing through her tears. Minho's face fell slightly. Is that a no? It's a yes, you dramatic man. It's a yes. It's always been a yes. He stood, slipped the ring onto her finger, and kissed her. Soft and sweet, and full of promise. When they pulled apart, Hope was watching them with wide, serious eyes. Minho picked her up, held her between them. Did you hear that, little one? Your mom said yes. We're going to be a real family. Hana wrapped her arms around both of them. We already are. The wedding. They got married 3 months later. Nothing big, nothing flashy. Just a small ceremony in a garden overlooking the Han River, with 30 people who actually mattered. Jisoo and his wife, Hana's colleagues, a few childhood friends, and Hope, 6 months old now, dressed in a tiny white dress and sleeping peacefully in Jisoo's arms during the vows. Hana wore a simple ivory dress, elegant and understated. Minho wore a charcoal suit, no tie, looking more at peace than he'd ever been. They wrote their own vows. Minho went first. Hana, I was a king of nothing before I met you. I ruled through fear and called it power. I survived through violence and called it strength. But you showed me what real power looks like, the courage to be vulnerable, the strength to forgive, the bravery to build something new from the ashes of what was broken. You saved me, not by fixing me, but by showing me I was worth fixing. I promise to spend every day proving that I'm worthy of your trust, to be the partner you deserve, the father our daughter needs, the man I should have been all along. I love you. Completely, forever, without question. There wasn't a dry eye in the garden. Then Hana spoke. Minho, you broke my heart, and then you put it back together. Not because I asked you to, but because you chose to. You showed me that people can change, that redemption is real, that love is stronger than fear. You taught me that being strong doesn't mean doing everything alone. It means knowing when to let someone stand beside you. I promise to choose you every day, to build this life with you, to raise our daughter with you, to create a home where love is the foundation, not an afterthought. I love you, deeply, truly, always. They exchanged rings, kissed as husband and wife, and when they turned to face their small gathering, Hope woke up and let out a loud, indignant wail. Everyone laughed. Minho took his daughter from Jisoo, kissed her forehead and whispered, "It's okay, baby. We're all yours now." 2 years later, the new empire. The house was different from the penthouse. Warmer, softer, full of light and laughter, and the organized chaos of a toddler who had just discovered the word no. It was in a quiet neighborhood, with a garden where Hope could play, and a study where both Hana and Minho worked side by side, building their legitimate business empire together. Hana's company had tripled in size. She was now one of the most respected architects in Asia, designing sustainable buildings that prioritized people over profit. Minho had launched his own consulting firm, helping former criminals transition to legitimate work. He used his understanding of that world to create real pathways out, offering jobs, training, second chances. They worked together on several projects, their skills complementing each other perfectly. But more importantly, they were partners in every sense, equal, balanced, whole. The evening Hana stood on the balcony of their home, watching the sun set over Seoul, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Hope was inside with Minho, the two of them building an elaborate block tower that would inevitably topple and cause delighted squeals. She could hear them laughing. Minho's deep voice. "Okay, Hope, hand Daddy the blue block. The blue one. No, that's red. Blue, yes, good girl." Hope's response, a mix of babbling and toddler certainty. "No, red." More laughter. Hana smiled, her heart so full it ached. She heard footsteps behind her, felt Minho's arms wrap around her waist, his chin resting on her shoulder. "She's impossible," he said, but his voice was filled with nothing but love. "She gets that from you." "Hey," he turned her around, mock offended. "I'm very reasonable. You argued with a 2-year-old about block colors for 10 minutes. She needs to learn her colors." Hana laughed, wrapped her arms around his neck. "You're an amazing father. We're amazing parents." He kissed her softly. "We did this together. Built this. Created this beautiful chaos. Do you miss it?" she asked quietly. "The old life? The power?" He thought about it for a moment, honest in his consideration, then shook his head. "No. I thought that was living. But it was just survival. This..." He gestured to the house, to the sound of Hope singing to herself inside. "This is living. This is what I was searching for all along. I just didn't know it until I found you." "We found each other," Hana corrected. "We did." He pulled her closer. "And I would choose this life, this chaos, this beautiful mess 1,000 times over, because you are my empire now. You and Hope. This is my kingdom, and I'm never walking away from it." Hana kissed him, soft and deep, and full of 2 years of healing and growth, and choosing each other every single day. When they pulled apart, Hope's voice called from inside. "Mama! Dada! Tower fall!" They laughed, and went back inside together, hand in hand. And as Minho helped Hope rebuild her tower, as Hana watched from the doorway with a hand on her belly, because yes, there was another baby on the way, a secret she'd been holding for a week, waiting for the perfect moment, she felt it again, that sense of peace, of completion, of home, not because everything was perfect, but because everything was real. They had survived the worst of each other and come out stronger. They had taken their broken pieces and built something beautiful. And that, Hana realized, was the greatest empire of all. The empire of love, of family, of second chances and new beginnings, of choosing hope over fear. Every single day. The end. Hope grows up knowing she was wanted, loved, chosen. And that sometimes the greatest strength isn't in never falling down, but in getting back up, choosing forgiveness, and building something beautiful from the ruins. This is their legacy. This is their empire.
You have 2 options. Keep watching short clips. Unlock the full story now. 14 full episodes. New content every week. Listen anytime, anywhere, no interruptions. Exclusive members-only area. Choose the story theme once a week. Scan the QR code now. Access is closing.